South Africa has responded, calling this decision to ban flights temporarily as rushed. How would you respond to that?
Well, look, I think we know from dealing with coronavirus all this time that actually the kind of early bird catches the worm, as it were. It's important to make sure that you do act immediately. And in doing so, you get to slow things down in terms of potential entry into the country. And that gives us a bit of time for the scientists to work on sequencing the genome, which involves growing cultures and takes several weeks to do. So we can find out how significant a concern this particular variant is. So it is a safety first approach. We've done that before with things like the mink variant from Denmark, and we're then able to relax it reasonably quickly. And I think it's a preference for doing that rather than waiting and seeing it until it's too late.
But between 500 and 700 people fly to the UK every day from South Africa alone. What about those people who arrived in the last 24 hours and who could be carrying that variant already?
Yeah, I should say we haven't actually detected any in the UK at all as yet, but we're contacting those people specifically. That work's already underway to make sure that they're taking PCR tests and we're getting the extra checks done. So we're able to contact each of those individuals through the passenger locator form, of course. If you're watching this and you have returned from South Africa, then please be in contact with Test and Trace. Please take a PCR test straight away and they will be contacting you. We just thought that this is, as scientists have described, the most significant variant they've encountered to date in their research. And I want to actually thank the South African government for their great work in helping to uncover. This is very much a precautionary approach, but I think it makes sense, and I think that the wider population will sort of appreciate that we're acting quickly because we don't want to have the chance of, want to give ourselves every opportunity to be able to research this before it becomes, common here.
Now, it's suggested that vaccines could be 40% less effective against this new variant. You say you're contacting people and inviting them for a PCR test. These tests won't be enforced then?
So we certainly will be contacting every single person who's coming back and asking for a test. Remember that it's still a relatively small outbreak in South Africa, but that it's growing very, very quickly. So we need to learn about the severity of the transmissibility of it and, of course, most critically of all, how vaccine susceptible it is. In other words, whether it can escape the vaccine or not. But we're tracking down each person who's come here. As I say, we've got no signs that it's here yet. It's still relatively small in South Africa, but this precautionary approach, similar to the one we took with the mink variant in Denmark, I think is the right way to go whilst we get answers. I hope this simply becomes a pause in travel from South Africa and those other countries, but we do need to do this work first, and this is the precautionary approach to make sure we have time to do it.
Now, we're very fortunate here. The UK is moving fast with booster vaccines, unlike the situation in many countries in the developing world. Is vaccine inequality one of the main reasons that we're seeing the emergence of these new variants?
Well, I think the United Kingdom's got a very proud record with that Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine, because that's the one that globally has been distributed, particularly to the developing world, faster than any other. I haven't got a recent figure, but the last one I saw was 1.5 billion doses of it being distributed. And of course, it's being done at cost because AstraZeneca said they wouldn't make a profit from doing it. And of course, it was British expertise at Oxford University. So I think this country has done a remarkable amount, as well as putting money into the international vaccine programme as well. Perhaps, dare I say, more than any other country, given the distribution of that at-cost vaccine to the whole world.
Now, one of the reasons variants are detected so well in South Africa is because they have such great genomic sequencing. We can't be 100% sure that this variant isn't already in the UK or indeed within Europe. So why does the government not enforce face masks in areas such as public transport or in shops like we see in so many other countries?
Well, one of the things that's kind of interesting here is that we've seen, because, as you rightly say, the huge take-up of vaccines, very little sort of scepticism about vaccines in this country, unlike elsewhere.
But this vaccine may not be effective against this new variant. It may be far less effective.
And that is, of course, the concern. But I was going to say, and the booster uptake, it's now touching on nearly 30% of people have had their boosters. You can't even have that until it's 6 months after your first vaccine. But the uptake has been so good that we have created something of a wall of protection. Now, we do have a plan B, which is well publicised, that if we need to go to that, we will, and that includes mask wearing everywhere and the like, and more besides. But we want people to be able to live their lives. We want the economy to be able to flourish. We want people to be able to go about their business and see their friends and family. So we're trying to operate as permissive a atmosphere as possible. But of course, we're keeping a very close eye on this all the time. So far in our numbers, we haven't seen any reason to do anything else. And it has to be said, considering we've been unlocked since the 19th of July, that I think we've been right to go about it in this way. Fortunately, the figures move around. There are certainly plenty of cases each day, but those cases are translating into hospitalizations and deaths at a much lower rate than elsewhere.